Hey folks, thanks for joining me again, this time for a review of the brand new Storm Trend 2. Let's get right into it. The Trend 2 features the modified piston LD core and the NRG hybrid cover stock, which was featured on the original Physics and the All-Road, two balls I was a huge fan of. I actually still have a Physics in my bag. I was also a huge fan of the original Trend and threw it a bunch in League, and I think this one's going to be the same but for different reasons. Right off the bat, I noticed this ball was a bit cleaner as far as when it wanted to spin up. The original Trend rolled a little heavier. The core is obviously a lot more high diff, a lot rollier, a lot tumblier. This feels a little quicker, a little more nimble, changes direction a little bit quicker. And the stronger polished cover overall feels like it could handle a little more oil, and also feels like it digs a little bit more, where R2S Pearl, which was featured on the original Trend, tended to push and be a little cleaner. The reduced density in this core actually sort of puts it in high road territory, but for me they feel two totally different spots. I still keep a high road X in my bag, but the Trend 2 feels like a lot more ball even than the All Road, which actually featured this exact same cover. The Trend 2 outhooks it quite a bit more, and I think it's because of the core shape. The high road core shape is more of like a light bulb shape, and it tends to get a little further down the lane. This core, even though they reduced the density, still sort of rolls the same, where it wants to sort of see the mid lane and be a little smoother and more even than the high road core shape in general. My comparison ball coming up is the Axiom Pearl, but I've already seen a bunch of folks asking where this fits relative to the Zen. And honestly, I think they complement each other pretty well. The Zen, like I said about the original Trend, is sort of heavier rolling, although the Zen is much stronger. That cover hooks quite a bit more than R2S Pearl, and it's really almost in phase 2 territory as far as when you can use it. It's almost like a fresh lane ball or a heavy oil 2 ball for me. Trend 2 doesn't feel that way at all. It definitely more feels like a mid ball. It's sort of a maybe you could start with it if they're hooking a bunch, but it's definitely going to be that second ball on like a house shot or some sort of rec pattern that's not super flooded. But I think the Zen probably can handle a little more oil, whereas the Trend 2 is going to excel a little bit more on maybe medium friction to higher friction conditions or surfaces. This is exciting for me because it's still a fairly strong cover, so I feel like I can sort of open up with it and be firmer and looser and not have to make it hook in the right spot. The Trend 2 in this video is pin up. It's about 4 3/4 off of my axis at about a 2 1/4 inch buffer, so that puts the pin right over my bridge. I think this is almost going to share that benchmark spot in my bag. Right now that spot is filled with the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, unless there's a bunch of oil. And then my benchmark ball is going to be a phase 2. This feels almost in between the two for me. The IQ Tour Nano Pearl is a very nice middle of the bag type of shape for me. It rolls pretty early, it sees the mid lane pretty well, but it's not super strong, so it tends to let me start a little bit further right, and then I can go up to something bigger and go left. This ball actually feels really similar. I can start with it, and then I can ball up and move left if they push, or I can chase it left with this ball if they start to open up some. It's probably worth mentioning also that these are not my first shots with this ball. I did throw it for a game and a half in League a couple of nights before this video was filmed, so I did sort of break in the cover a little bit. With the reduced differential and the bigger, smoother cover, this ball almost feels like a cross between like a high road and an IQ with a cleaner cover. It wants to see the mid lane as well as an IQ ball would. My favorite IQ right now is the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, and it almost hooks in the same spot, but it's a little bit quicker off the back, so it's a little more usable on softer conditions. I don't necessarily want something super controllable like an IQ all the time, especially when they're a little easier. I like that quicker bounce down the lane. It tends to help me carry the corners a little bit. Getting into the comparison here, we're going to see Trend 2 against the Axiom Pearl. The Axiom Pearl obviously is a little bit bigger as far as the core, the total numbers, the total differential is much higher. And you see that as this ball goes down the lane against the Axiom Pearl. You see the Trend 2 turn up and continue a little bit more than the Axiom does, where the Axiom sort of hooks and then goes forward on the back. Right after I drilled the Axiom Pearl, I did throw it a bunch in League because I could send it to the friction early and still see it push through the mid lane because it's a Pearl, and then not overreact to friction because of how smooth and heavy it rolls. So balls like this have a purpose. This isn't to say that the Axiom Pearl is not as good as the Trend 2, but the Trend 2 is quicker. And so on a house shot, that just sort of gives me a different miss. With the Axiom Pearl, I can get it right to the friction and not worry about it overhooking. With the Trend 2, I can keep my speed up and send it and not worry about it missing the spot and getting too far down the lane. As far as where this fits in the bag, I definitely think it's going to be mid-ball territory. This isn't just a hook monster. I don't think you have to have a ton of revs to throw this ball, but I do think that if your miss tends to be a little firm, this is going to be a ball that still is going to pick up for you because it's a significantly stronger cover than the original Trend. You would think because the differential is lower that this ball would sort of run out of room to hook and get back as you move in, but that's not the case, at least that I've seen so far in the review and in the little bit that I've thrown it outside of this. If you feel like you have a gap between all your upper mid stuff, your RST balls, your Rubicon stuff, your Axioms, and your high roads are sort of your late block stuff that you need to fill, I think this fills that spot really, really nice and gives you something really versatile that can fill that spot with a lot of different setups compared to different balls. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.